I think that the synergy of being able to work with the governor-elect, even in transition, which I know he is besieged by putting a whole administration together and the challenges that will come before him as it relates to fiscal issues and other issues, is a great opportunity to talk about some of our federal-state partnerships. And so it's an auspicious start to start with the governor-elect in transition to talk about these things. And, of course, with my colleague Cory Booker, such a champion on so many of these issues and such a great partner to me and to the people of New Jersey. Gateway is incredibly important for us, and for me this has been a long-standing challenge. The late Frank Lautenberg, when we came together and got $3 billion of federal commitment, at that time the largest federal commitment for a mass transit project in the nation's history. Of course, Governor Christie had a different view, and we lost that, and for a decade we have had the challenge. Now we have an opportunity again, hopefully coming together with the state of New York, to very soon, and I know this will be one of the governor's missions from our conversation, to see if we can come up with our part of the funding so that Gateway can be something that we can file to get new starts designation, incredibly important, something that Senator Booker on the Commerce Committee, having the Rail Committee as part of his jurisdiction, and myself, the Mass Transit, we're on the ranking Democrat together. We've created some provisions of the law, but we can't take opportunities of that if we don't have an agreement between the two states. So the governor's engagement and commitment to that is exceptionally important, and we look forward to working with him in that regard. Also, the tax bill, certainly this is a bad bill for New Jersey. I think it's a bad bill for America. Anything that blows $1.5 trillion in the national debt isn't my way of creating growth. And I know the governor and the senator share my view that growth is about growth in wages as well, so that working families and middle-class families can realize their hopes and dreams and aspirations, not simply growth in corporate profits that ultimately get turned to shareholders. And so we're pushing to actually have, Governor, a conference committee that meets, because the designation of a conference committee doesn't mean necessarily that it will actually meet. Republicans could just pre-cook their differences, see if they can come to a conclusion, and then bring it one day and have a vote on it. So we're urging them, when's our first meeting? And secondly, let's make the conference public. There is no reason why the conference cannot be open to the public and the press to see what the arguments are and the negotiations taking place. And so that's our first two requests. And our third request is to have the independent scorekeepers that can give us an honest judgment. The Joint Tax Committee and the Congressional Budget Office should be the scorers of anything that ultimately might be reconciled. And for me, obviously, as a conferee, the state and local deductions, the property tax deduction, interest on student loans, and just a more progressive nature of how we help middle-class families achieve those goals by virtue of a tax code. Under this bill, corporate taxes cuts are permanent. Individual taxes, even where to an extent there is some relief, they expire at the course of the life of the bill. That's just wholly fundamentally unacceptable, and that's why you have to blow $1.5 trillion to keep those corporate taxes. And finally, the health of our people is incredibly important. Some estimates have over 300,000 New Jerseyans losing health care if their provisions on the individual mandate are exercised and become a reality. That's an enormous number of people in New Jersey facing that, and another 10% increase in premiums for everybody else. That's just not acceptable. And as somebody who was there fighting for the Affordable Care Act from the very beginning as a Senate Finance Committee member, we're not going to let that die easily. So those are just a couple of the big issues that we've been talking about with the governor, as well as obviously the Children's Health Insurance Program and our federally qualified health centers that produce such incredible work for our people. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, before I turn it over to Senator Booker, our thoughts are with the people in New York on this day. But it is the reality of a post-September 11th world that makes it so important that when we are fighting for domestic discretionary spending to equal any defense spending, domestic discretionary spending is what's going to help the state of New Jersey in Homeland Security dollars, in our municipalities with the cops and fire grants. These are the people who are the first responders. And if we cut that, then we are cutting the very essence of security that was so important today and every other day.